Friday on Blues Weekend. How y'all doing? Good to see your smiling faces. Pastor, will you lead us in prayer to get us started? Holy Spirit.
Thank you. I wanted to share some words with you found in 1 Corinthians 13. It says, now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Now, those three words, faith, hope, and love, are three amazing building blocks. If you build your life on those three, if you build your family on those three, if we build this hospital on those three things, faith, hope, and love, we can do amazing things. I mean, think about it. Faith has to do with trusting God, believing that God made you, that God knows you, that God loves you. It also has to do with trusting the people that you work with, counting on your coworkers. And it includes being a trustworthy person yourself. Being the kind of coworker that if you tell your other folks you're going to be there at 9 o'clock, they know you'll be there by 8:45. And if you tell them you'll do something, then they know you're going to do it. They don't have to worry about it. Hope comes from realizing that the work we do is very, very important. That if we weren't here, Memphis and this whole region would suffer because they need us to be here. The work that we do is not wasted, it's valuable, and it's important. And love has to do with compassion. Compassion for the patients that we serve, compassion for their loved ones, even if they're a little bit grumpy sometimes. Compassion for our coworkers, and also compassion for ourselves. So I encourage you to build your lives, I encourage you to build this hospital on those three building blocks, faith and hope and love. Would you pray with me? Oh God, we do thank you for those three great building blocks. We thank you, Lord, for faith and hope and love. And now we ask you to bless this time. We pray that your Spirit will be felt as we gather down, as we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jesus. Hello. Hello. What's going on? Y'all look wonderful. It's Friday. It's 1 o'clock. We're about to get started on our first quarter town halls. Now, how many of you remember our last quarter town halls? Remember when those happened? What season was it? Fall? Actually, we had town halls last summer. Summer was the last town halls we had. Yeah, summer. So we didn't have any town halls in fourth quarter. And I didn't get an email or a call from any of you saying, what happened to fourth quarter town halls, Alicia? I thought you guys loved this time that we spent together. I thought y'all looked forward to it. We went on whole quarter and nobody even noticed. Now, last summer, we introduced you to our patient experience coach. Who was that? Who's the coach? Coach Jay. We introduced you to Coach Jay. We decided that we really wanted to revamp our MUH culture. We wanted to indoctrinate all of you with a new way. And so they came, they told us what they were going to do, and over the last few months, they've spent this time assessing us. Some of you have participated in that assessment. Some of you have been a part of the physician focus groups, the associate focus groups, and our patient focus groups. So now that he's done that assessment, we've built the plan, and today is all about communicating that plan. Now, before we get started with talking about the plan, I've got one major request. Many of you have devices in your pockets that might make noise. So phones and pagers, please, please, please put them on silent. It's a big group, and it gets very easy to get distracted if a pager goes off or a phone goes off. All right, with that being said, I'll toss it over to Jake.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks for being here today. I'm happy to be here. Are you happy to be here? Yes. It's been a long. I feel bad that you didn't miss me in December. That you didn't call her office and why are we not having another town hall meeting? Now, some of you came here because you were told to be here. I get it. But you forget, we have a little fun. Is it okay to have a little fun at a town hall meeting? Yes. Is it okay to have a little fun at a town hall meeting? All right. So, Alicia was right. We've been working behind the scenes, interviewing your patients, interviewing you, people on the street, executives, one-on-ones with physicians, and we've gotten a lot of input. Some of those interviews we videotaped, and you're going to see some of those clips today. We also took representatives from many departments off-site for 2 days. These were executives, middle managers, frontline employees, patients, and physicians, and they developed the start of what we call re-enhancing the MLH way. Okay? What have we built over the last 10 years is very good, but it's not great. because good is the enemy of great. Remember that stretch exercise we all did? I said, hey, y'all reach as high as you can, and you did. I said, give me the extra inch higher, and you did. And that's what the patient's talking about. So we want to put the patient in the driver's seat of everything we do. But we have to mirror of how we treat the patient and how we treat each other. And when we talk to you in focus groups, we're not doing so well there, are we? So how do we make sure that we treat each other with dignity and respect, courtesy and respect, with eye contact and smile? If we're expected to do that for every patient and every visitor, why can't we do it with each other? The secret sauce of building a world-class patient experience is first creating an internal service experience with each other. Now, we got lots of pockets of excellence. The question is, how do we make that more consistent? Okay? Now, this is a way to get a hold of us. You got a piece of paper in front of you. If you want to write down any emails or any information along the way, if you want to stick around after the workshop, we're available for you. But this is the start of a conversation. This is not a one-off. We're not going to dip you in this and hope and pray that it happens. We're going to be working on this over the next year. We are going to be here. Myself and Kwesi working with Alicia, and we already have the cath lab signed up for more work. The rehab departments already want us to come to their bone marrow transplants. Like, we want to go. So over the next 3 to 12 months, Kwesi will take you through our plan. And one of the plans is every supervisor and above will be bringing their key guy or gal. Is that you? I'm not talking about, are you the trainer of the department? Are you the one who's most eager to make this the best place to work and the best place for patient experience? Then let your manager know. So every manager and key guy or person in your department will be trained in a deep dive, 3 hours per quarter, on these tools. So we want to give you an awareness of these tools because we don't want to wait for the first workshop. We don't want to wait for your boss and your key person to get trained. So anyway, that's enough about us. Let's get started. As you may know, I like to use video clips and photographs to start a conversation. So let's look at this photograph right here. Let me blow it up for you. This is a photograph of a friend of mine, Bertha, who's an environmental services employer at Kaiser Permanente in California. This picture was sent in by the daughter of this patient. This patient is in the intensive care unit. She has a trachea. It's very difficult for her to whisper or even talk. Yet today was the day she's going to be discharged from the hospital to a long-term care facility. Mirtha and Al Karen stepped into this picture. Mirtha came in on her day off. Did not clock in, did not clock out, put her pressed uniform on, her professional look, her ID over her heart. She came in because she wanted to say goodbye. If you were the daughter of that woman, why would you pull out your phone and take a picture? What's remarkable or unusual about this scene? It's not just a job, it's personal, I heard. What else? What would you feel if you saw this happening to your mother? How would it make you feel?
Like they really
Cared, like they loved. What else? Is caring and love a good byproduct of the caring experience? Even if the outcome is death? And that's the litmus test that 68 of your peers have been working on for 2 days off-site. We rolled up our sleeves, and for 3.5 hours we worked on one piece of that paper. On 3.5 hours we worked on another piece of that paper. Another 4 hours we worked on the behaviors of that paper. So don't think this piece of paper in front of you came from the outside. It didn't. It grew within the organization. And we validate it with patients. And you're going to hear what patients love about you, and you're going to hear what patients think you can do a little bit better on. But this is the start of a conversation, and we need you to take this piece of paper back to your department and keep the conversation going. Because ultimately, we want to make sure that becomes the way we do business here. We know from business books like this one, Good to Great, which analyzed 100 different companies in America 10 years ago, and they found out the difference between good organizations and great organizations is good is the enemy of great. Why, when you're a good organization, do you never become great? What do you do instead? Why good organizations never reach for greatness? Because you become complacent. You settle for being just good. And in the world of healthcare, we have 1,900 team members or associates that make. So we're going to dissect those things in a moment because this is not a good reflection of the care that you deliver. This is your patient satisfaction data I just took off the internet, and it's a data based on 26 questions that the U.S. government has mandated all institutions that they pay money to for Medicaid and Medicare for the poor and the elderly. And I don't like the survey. You probably don't like the survey, but I don't know if you know the survey. The survey is 26 questions, and it's a frequency survey. How often was it quiet at night? Never, sometimes, or always. How often did your nurse or doctor treat you with dignity and respect? Never, sometimes, or always. So it's interesting that the patient is measuring us on our ability to do it as a team. And it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or nurse. The question is, if you're a food service person in the cafeteria, if you're a transporter pushing me in a wheelchair, if you're a contracted security officer working in the parking lot at 6:45 in the morning and I'm getting directions from you, we all have a role in this experience. And we like to say, if you're not taking care of the patient, you should be taking care of someone who is. We all have a role in this care team. So how do we move this red to yellow, these yellows to green, so that we're a leader in this? Well, sometimes we have to ask our patients. We have to ask our patients, what are we doing well, and how do we get to all this? And then we need to ask you. And it can't just be top-down anymore. It's got to be grassroots up. This is an organic approach. This too will die if you don't participate. That's right. This is like Habitat for Humanity, where we're building homes for the poor or disenfranchised, right? You may show up as a volunteer to help build a house, but you've never built anything in your life. I don't know how to use a hammer or a circular saw. That's okay. Kwesi and I and our team, we have the tools, we have the resources, we have the experience, but you got to show up. You can cross your arms, you can throw this piece of paper in the trash when you leave here, and you can be part of the small population in this organization that sucked the life out of every meeting we go to. You know who they are. I know you're here, by the way, because when you walked into this room, the lights started to flicker. It's hard to breathe around you. When you leave this meeting, you walk down the hall, you'll turn to anybody who'll listen next to you, and you'll go, that was a complete waste of time. And it could be. This next 55 minutes could be a complete waste of time if you don't say something to that person. I need your participation. I need your partnership. I need your positivity. The only way this place is going to change, the definition of insanity, is we're going to do the same thing over and over again, and we're going to expect different results. What are we going to do differently? It's not Roland's role. It's not Nikki, the TNO's role. It's not your manager or your director's role. It's your role. So we're going to give you some simple exercises. We're going to cover some simple tools in less than an hour, so hold on, buckle up, so that we can get through this. So as we talked about last summer, a lot of organizations are stuck here in this culture called ambiguous culture. They're not really clear on what they stand for and what they won't stand for. Now, we're going to take you through both sides of the equation, but we're going to start with the negative. Because a lot of organizations come in and say, mission, vision, and values, and that's great. Oh, my. But what are the things that we say and we do that really just cut your legs off? That makes you grind and like, you're looking at the schedule, is she working today? Right? The people who say, that's not my patient, that patient don't belong here, right? That patient is entitled, right? Or that employee's working today, right? It's the people, well, that's just the way I am. And the head starts to bob, right? Hands on the hip, right? Or it's our dress and demeanor and our body language. Kwesi's going to take you through a lot of that. I can't tell you right from wrong. Only you can develop in your department what are we going to stand for and the things that we're not going to stand for anymore. So we're going to take you through that. Let's start with some fun, though. This is on the TV now. It's a commercial you've probably seen many times. Why is this concerning about the care that we're delivering at Methodist University Hospital?
Have you ever worked with Dr. Francis?
Oh yeah, he's okay.
Just okay?
Guess who just got reinstated? Well, not officially. Nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I'll see you in there.
Just okay is not okay.
Your patients in this town are saying just okay is not okay. Sometimes, not okay. I want a culture of always. You want a surgeon to cut you open, then you want that guy to be your doctor? Oh, you nervous? Yeah, me too. Hey, we'll figure it out, right? Guess who just got reinstated? Well, not officially. It's funny, but it's not funny. I've been in healthcare now for 18 years, and this still happens. Do these people work here? Right? The Joint Commission, DMV, the state Tennessee, they're constantly watching our quality and our safety, but people like this, they suck the life out of our departments and they erode the trust of our patients and their loved ones. Does that wife want her husband to go into surgery now? Might she be making some other phone calls and getting him out of here? The patient may not have had a choice to come in here via ambulance, but by God, they have a choice on whether they're ever going to come back. And they will go on social media. They go on Yelp and Facebook. Some of the websites, some of you are on right now. That's right, I see you. That's right. You know what I call you? You're doing the iPhone prayer, right? Oh, dear Lord, look how many emails I've got. Look how many likes I got on Facebook, right? You're doing that iPhone prayer right now. Don't think I don't see you. I do this for a living. All right. So how many of you, there, quick test, how many of you, just raise your hands, how many of you can recite the 48 words of the mission statement? Real quick. Raise your hand. I got $10 to say you can do it. Come on, you can do it. All right, well, maybe you can't. Why is that concerning? It's our reason for being. It's the reason we exist. It's the reason we differentiate this hospital from Baptist across the street, from other university hospitals in the state of Tennessee. I'm concerned about that. Well, let's just read it. Why is it concerning? It's a very worthwhile promise, right? Methodist of Honor Healthcare, in partnership with its medical staff, will collaborate with patients and their families to be a leader in providing high-quality, cost-effective patient and family-centered care. Services will be provided in a manner which supports the health ministries and social principles of the United Methodist Church to benefit the communities we serve. Now close your eyes and raise your hand. If you can recite it, I'll give you $10. This is not to pick on your CEO or your corporate office or your marketing department. But if everybody has their own definition of what the mission of this organization is, do we have alignment? Will we have consistency? Will we be able to brag about our workplace at our church or our synagogue or our bridge or our social environment? When we don't have the same definition of success, doesn't it feel like work is a bunch of herding cats? A bunch of independent little furry creatures that we work with kind of scratching your face out?
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here. And if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds.
It's ripped to shreds. You see the movies, you hear the stories. I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
When you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost one of them, man, it ain't a feeling like it in the world. But how many of you last week, whatever that Friday was, were driving home from the hospital and you look in the rearview mirror and you go, man, what a tough week. I feel like my face was ripped to shreds, right? Do we suck the joy out of the workplace sometimes, unintentionally, with the people we work with? Now listen, our patients are impatient. Our patients are needy. They're sicker than they've ever been, right? Sometimes they're over-demanding. Is your work hard? Yeah, your work is hard. You should pat yourself on the back. But should we make your work harder with the people we work with? What we do for the patient must mirror how we do for each other. We're not there yet. We need your help so you don't feel like you're herding cats at work. So these very simple things will first create alignment. Not just alignment in our hospital, but we want to be the case study for the whole health system. That's right. From the organization and MLH down to this hospital, down to your department, down to your team, down to you. What is your departmental playbook and how does it fit into the overall system? Let's prove it to Dr. Kwesi that we're going to lead the way. We're not going to be looking at our patient satisfaction scores and navel-gazing and just being depressed. We're going to lead the way, but we need your help. Everybody has to be pointed in the same direction. Why? Otherwise, we're just herding cats. And right now, you all have, if I stop anyone in the hallway, and we do it all the time, say, excuse me, do you work here? Yes. What do you do? I'll hear nurse, respiratory tech, environmental services, pharmacist. I'll hear your job title. And that means you're putting blinders on. Remember the gorilla exercise we did last summer? where you watched the basketball teams playing, the white t-shirt team, and you didn't see the gorilla in the room because I was asking you to count bounce passes? You remember that? It's because you were so focused on your job tasks, counting basketballs, you forgot your role in the healing experience. Right? We've learned this in 15 years of working in different hospitals. So what's going to be the difference? We took 68 of your peers off-site to continue this conversation. We showed them the data that we got from the secret shopping reports. We played them the videos from the patient experience assessment. We got a few of them to share with you here. And they started to build the blueprints to take us from good to great. Now, is it perfect? No. It's a bunch of common sense things, but we're hopefully going to make it common practice. Kwesi, come on down and tell us what the plan is, because what I loved about one of the participants said, it was designed by us and our patients, for us and our patients. Ladies and gentlemen, Kwesi Johnson, give it up.
Don't let me be the only one excited here today. Don't let me be the only one excited. Hey guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. A goal without a plan is simply a wish. That was good. Somebody should write that down. Somebody should write that down. That a goal without a plan is simply a wish, guys, and we're not wishing today. All right, we do have a plan of where we're trying to go. At the end of the day, we actually came here back in October. We did some assessment work like Jake talked about. We did some patient focus groups. We did some employee focus groups. We did some mystery shopping, right? Some of you saw your feet walking past the trash on the camera. Yeah, that was you. Absolutely. And so we got that group of individuals together for 2 days, and we defined where we're going to go from this point forward. The first thing they came up with was our true north. Our true north is simply our service promise. It's our promise to each other, how we're going to treat one another, and how we're going to treat our patients. That's what it is. All right? The other thing they came up with were our operational priorities. Operational priorities are nothing more than a decision-making filter when you have a dilemma. I had an individual the other day, a guy named Mike Love, security guy, was taking the patient out to his car, wanted to be at this meeting at 7 a.m. Patient lost their cell phone in the car, right? He has a dilemma now. Do I help this patient or do I make my meeting on time? This will help us get to all of us on the same page to figure out how do we make decisions in this organization going forward. The other thing we came up with, guys, was our graffiti. We're talking about organizational graffiti now, not the art form, right? Organizational graffiti is anything that distracts or detracts from the ideal experience, all right? The other thing they came up with, and that group labored over these things, they said we got to come up with 7 things that everyone in this organization can do. 7 key behaviors if we do them how often? Always. Yeah. If we do them always, we'll start to build the culture that we want to have here. Okay, so we defined all those things, so Jake and I are here this week to communicate out the plan to you, right, to let you know where we're going from this point forward. Okay? Now, I know some of you are sitting here thinking, Kwesi, man, this sounds really good. You seem really excited about this. I don't know why, because I'm not that excited, but you seem really excited. Okay? But is my manager going to go through this training? Because that's who really need this stuff. All right? Yeah, as Jake talked about, we're taking supervisors, managers, directors. They're going through a deep dive on this. They're going through a 3-hour training of all the tools that we're going to bring to you. We're going to bring it back to your department. We're going to try to help you localize it in your department. Why? Because respiratory therapy is different from 6th Tower. Maintenance is different from security. We need to localize it to your department so it actually makes sense to you. So then you can keep to living this thing out, right? Because that's the only way we got to get this sustained, because this will not last if you don't build it. If we don't build it, it will just become another flavor of the month. It'll be another thing that you say, you know what, just lay down for a few months. This will pass too, right? So we will try to localize it to your department so that way we can actually sustain this thing, because what we want to start doing over the next 3 to 12 months is figure out how do we recruit for this? How do we onboard for this? How do we train for this? How do we get people in the job for a right fit and not just a warm body in that position, right? Because we got a new culture, a new way, because it's a new year, all right? So our goal is to build an enhanced patient-driven culture. What does that mean? I'm so glad you asked, okay? Oftentimes we just throw the patient in the back seat and keep on rolling, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to put that patient in the driver's seat and let them know where we're going. Help us understand where we need to do that, right? So for us to be able to do that, like I said, we did some employee focus groups, but we also did patient focus groups. And your patients kind of told us what they wanted from us. right? I think it's very important to capture the voice of the patient. So here's what some of them told us that we do really well. Tell me what you think.
When I first got here 25 years ago, all of the physicians whom I became friendly with indicated that the best hospital in town was Baptist Memorial Hospital. And over the years, that changed. And for the last, I would say, at least 10 years, it changed to this hospital.
She answered on the 516-7000. There have been days that I have been in such pain and anguish. I needed the lift that her voice never failed to give me. Just, she was excited that I had called. That's what I felt when she answered.
But people were confused as to where they were going, and Yvonne had said to someone, "Can I help you?" And with that, there was either a doctor or someone that had come up, and he proceeded to take right over and gave them directions and everything. And from that point till we got to here, there were 3 different occasions where people were confused and somebody stopped and gave them directions. That was good.
I went to visit a doctor here next to in the medical arts building. I felt welcomed by the nurse that I came in contact with as a new patient to the doctor. The follow-up beyond that was also excellent.
Well, I was here in this hospital for 12 nights about 18 months ago. And what I did notice is that no matter where I was being wheeled around, it seemed like I was being wheeled around the hospital every day, most of the day long. People, for the most part, said hello. I was impressed by it. I started to look for it and just measure kind of in my own mind how many people did it and how many didn't.
For the most part, right? I've seen it firsthand. Anybody heard what the last guy said? What did he say? He started to do what? He started to expect it, right? Because what happened? Somebody spoke to him while he was in that wheelchair. He started to make a mental note. You spoke, you ain't speak, you spoke, right? That's what he did. And at the end of the day, what did he expose? He exposed our culture of sometimes, right? Because sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't, all right? So here's what I will say. We had one of those patients in that focus group that told us that a smile is the beginning of the healing process. Would you agree with that? Yeah. There's some clinical benefits sometimes to making eye contact and a smile and a good warm good morning. Yes, there is. One of those patients kind of told us what that felt like to her, and here's the impact that it had on her. Listen to this and see, tell me what you think.
I was just here for surgery a little over a month ago. And even rolling on the stretcher and people saying hi. You take the time to kind of lift up, look over, whatever, and say hi. That's a measure of value. Because you can become easily invisible in that wheelchair, on that stretcher as someone's rolling and someone else is going about their business. But they weren't just speaking to the person pushing me. They were speaking to me. And it is a warm feeling. It's a feeling of care and caring. Your blood pressure will go down. Your heart rate will level out. It's a tense few minutes rolling from point A to OR holding. And you are thinking beyond that holding area to what's going to happen when I'm on that cold steel table looking up at that bright light that's blinding me, hearing noises, but I can't see the people where they're coming from because some are behind my head and on this side, and this is my blind side. A million things are going through your mind. And again, that they cared enough. But it has a medical domino effect because it does calm the vitals. It also slows down the psychological trauma that you may be enduring.
You guys agree with that? Yeah, every head in here should be shaking. Yeah. You know why? Because many of us have no clue what people are going through when they come through that door. The fear and trepidation they experience. My brother just got life flighted here. Where do I go? My husband of 30 years is in the hospital now. I don't know what to do next. I didn't get my report back on my labs. Do I have cancer? Don't I have cancer? Am I going to die or not? All of that is going through people's minds when they walk through this door. Do all of us in here touch patients? Some of us don't, right? But can all of us be a part of the healing experience? Yes, because we said that we agreed that a smile was the beginning of that healing experience. We all get to be a part of that, right? Now, here's what I will say, guys. We got some good things going on, right? We got a good foundation to build upon, I believe, because we got some friendly people and we got some hardworking people here. But I will also tell you, we got some, let's say, areas for improvement, right? So, your patients kind of told us about some of those challenges or areas for improvement that they think we have. Listen to this and tell me what you think.
When I became frustrated, I decided, let me call the main number back to find out if they have a patient portal, because a lot of hospitals at least do have that. And they gave me the link, so I was able to log on and sign on with my name, username, password as a new patient. And sure enough, my results were there. As a patient who was very good with technology, I was able to see what my results were. They finally did call me back, I think 4 days later, and they told me they were going to put the results in the mail. That was even very interesting, because I'm like, wow, I still haven't talked to the physician. I still have not had much dialogue with the nurse. I do know my results are normal, thank God for that blessing. However, there hasn't really any dialogue with me as a patient who came to see you.
The biggest challenges that we have is in communication. Accountability, responsibility. When we don't communicate well, those are the next things on the chopping block.
I have a very good friend, like a couple of months ago, that when he got up to go to the bathroom, he felt like he had this really pounding in his chest. Ended up, he's got his wife to take him to the ER. And so they had told him that he would probably have to go to a step-down room before he could be discharged. She said she'd been staying with him every night, so she said she got her gown on, took her Ambien and so forth, set for the night. 1:30 they came in and told them they were going to move him.
We hand people a stack of papers when they're about to be discharged. 75% of the papers don't pertain to them anyway. You give this stuff to people and you just hand it to them, take this with you. It does not mean anything if they look at those pages and they're all symbols to them. They can't read it.
One word should ring throughout everybody's head. What was that one word that threaded through that thing? Communication. She said that if we don't communicate well, then accountability and responsibility are on the chopping block, right? Because at that point in time, we come to playing the blame game. I thought you were going to tell them. Well, I thought you were going to tell them. Well, I thought you were going to tell them. If we're putting the patient in the driver's seat, right, because we're becoming a patient-driven organization now, I'm going to tell you whether I thought somebody else told you or not, right? All right, so here's what I was telling you guys. At the end of the day, we have to figure out a way to close this crevice. We've got to. We've got to put a stake in the ground. We do a really good job of determining what we will stand for. Service, quality, integrity, teamwork, innovation. What are those? Those are your values, right? But we don't do a really good job of saying this is what we will no longer stand for in this organization. Your attitude, the way you behave, the way you treat other people is no longer acceptable in this new culture we're building. We have to put a stake in the ground and say we will no longer accept these kind of things. Right? Now, one of the best ways we can do that, guys, to identify our graffiti. We talked about what our graffiti was. It's either things that distract or detract from the ideal experience. Graffiti can be broken up into two different things. You got physical graffiti. Physical graffiti. Anything you touch, taste, see, or smell. And there's some smells coming from some of these floors when you walk up there. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to show you a quick picture. It's not your hospital, but it can be any hospital in America. Tell me what you see in this picture. Trash, garbage, clutter, right? Now, miraculously, all this disappears when DMV shows up. Right? But if I'm a patient being wheeled down the hallway in a wheelchair, somebody please tell me, how does this make me feel? Do I feel like you're going to take good care of me if I got all this in the hallway? No. Right? So at the end of the day, here's what I will tell you guys. A lot of this for us has become a fixture in our unit or our department because we walk by it every day. But your patient who's here for the first time has never seen that. Right? So that's what we're talking about. We're going to put the patient in the driver's seat and we're going to start looking through that lens of the patient. And this doesn't make them feel good. Okay, so that group of 68 got together and told us what they thought our physical graffiti here is at this organization. I will throw a small caveat out of this. As you listen to this video, this is not a blame game. This is not me telling you you're not doing your job well. Okay? This is them simply looking through the lens of a patient and telling you what they believe physical graffiti is. So hear that as they say these things.
We think physical graffiti is our elevator areas at the parking garage because it's the first and last thing our associates see every day, and it's consistently grimy.
We think physical graffiti is nasty, dirty, wrinkled, faded uniforms.
We think physical graffiti is the cleanliness of our elevators, especially when you look up and you see surgical gloves hanging out with the lights.
Tape on doors and walls, smokers smoking outside of a non-smoking hospital, visitor stickers stuck to the floor, wet floor signs throughout the hospital.
We think physical graffiti is hair nets and shoe covers outside of the OR.
We think physical graffiti is body piercings, tattoos, artificial fingernails. They're unprofessional.
It is the space on ground floor in our hospital. We have, from pharmacy, we have cardboard boxes outside of there that are stored. We have the food area that gets carts that get the floor all black and tarnished. We got smells that are very unappetizing.
We think physical graffiti is when our associates are having personal conversations in the patient care area.
We think our physical graffiti is when we see broken or damaged furniture sitting outside of an elevator.
We think physical graffiti is when your associates are on social media in the patient care areas.
We think physical graffiti is all the cords that are tangled up on top of the desk in the nurses' station.
We think that physical graffiti is when our care team members don't acknowledge our guests because they're too busy listening to music on their cell phone, talking on their cell phone, reading their emails on their cell phone.
Yeah, I tell you what, on my way here, I passed by about 5 people. One I almost ran into. Flat out, almost ran into them because they were looking on their phone, walking down the hallway. I am a brand new patient here. I have surgery tomorrow. I'm terrified to death of what's going to happen. And I walk by 5 people, they don't speak to me. How does that make me feel? Do I feel valued as a patient? Do I feel like you even want me to be here? No. So again, guys, we want to start looking through the lens of our patients when we think through things. We're putting them in the driver's seat. We're becoming patient and how we do things. Now, the other portion of graffiti is verbal graffiti. Oh, this is the fun one. This is the fun one, right? Because verbal graffiti is anything that you hear or say. That's a distraction, right? And we say some stuff. Yeah, whether it's to each other, right? Or to our patients. And I will tell you this much, guys. What you don't say sometimes speaks just as loudly as what you do say. Your body language is atrocious when you're talking to each other sometimes, right? And I'm picking up exactly what you put down. You ain't said a word, but I hear everything you just said in your body language, right? And sometimes, as I told you, as Jake's told you before, it's not exactly what you say, it's how you say it. You might want to back up a little bit on with that tone, okay? I'm only asking a question, okay? I'm only asking a question, all right? So, at the end of the day, guys, we got to figure out what are those things that we're saying that are distracting to the experience. So that same group got together and told us what those things are they feel is our verbal graffiti. Listen to this video and tell me what you think.
We think verbal graffiti is when you engage in conversation about a patient with other people and you don't know who you're talking with.
We think verbal graffiti is when we tell patients that this is not a hotel.
Patients hear the nurses' staff saying, I'm short-staffed, this is my 5th at Met, that's not my patient, that patient doesn't belong up here.
We think verbal graffiti is when you overhear somebody talking maybe rudely to somebody and then they turn around and tell everybody else, well, they just need to understand that's the way I am.
We think verbal graffiti is when people say, I'm off the clock.
We think verbal graffiti is when a patient calls and say, I didn't get a breakfast, and we have to tell them, well, we're through serving breakfast.
We think verbal graffiti is passing the blame to others.
We think verbal graffiti is when a unit coordinator answers a call light and tells the patient she's on lunch.
We feel like verbal graffiti is complaining about your job around the patients. There's a time and a place for everything, and in the patient room, that is not the time.
We think verbal graffiti is openly venting about anything in the hospital and public hallways.
We think verbal graffiti is telling the patient no for any of their requests without explaining yourself.
We think verbal graffiti is saying that you're short-staffed to the patient family members. It makes them feel as if that we're not going to keep them safe and that we're not equipped to take care of them.
We think verbal graffiti is saying, I don't know, I don't usually work this floor, because that doesn't foster confidence in the care we're giving.
Quick question for you. Do our patients know we're short-staffed? Yes. Yeah, how do they know we're short-staffed? Because we tell them. That's what we do. Yeah, hell yes we do. We tell them all the time. Now, this is what I will tell you guys, really quick. As a graduate of the Tennessee State University, go Tigers. For 10 years, I worked as a respiratory therapist right down the way at St. Thomas Hospital. I'm telling you, I know what it means to stick a fork in that meal when you just sat down for lunch and you get a page. Oh, I just paid $12 for that lunch, now I gotta throw it away. But when I show up to Mrs. Jones's room, and Mr. Jones, her husband of 35 years, is holding her hand because he has no clue whether she will make it out of here or not. Does Mr. Jones need to know I just threw my meal away? No, not at all, right? So if we're putting the patient in the driver's seat, all I'm saying, guys, we got to start being more aware of the things that we do and we say that can be a distraction or a detraction to the ideal experience. Fair enough?
Thank you, my friend. Let's hear it for my friend Judy. A lot of times graffiti is unintentional consequences of being me first. I like to wear loud cologne. What's the problem? Well, Jake, you should know that the cologne showed up about a half hour before you did. I like to eat popcorn on my break. Yeah, but that patient just threw up 3 times because she came out of anesthesia and she smelled popcorn. Made her sick. Me first is the opposite of being patient first. So thank you, Kwesi, for identifying that. But now we've talked about the shifting sand, and we hope you start that conversation at the unit level. Because this can't come down from corporate. This has got to be a grassroots approach, okay? So what way does a compass need to point to make sure it works? North. How often? Always. Right now, it's not pointing north. Everybody has their own interpretation of our mission, vision, and values. So a group of 68 folks, your peers and patients and physicians, put our mission, vision, and values in a blender. And they came out with 7 words. It's the first 7 words on that piece of paper. Together, we enrich every life we touch. By the way, it's off your mission statement, or your vision statement. Together, we enrich every life we touch. I didn't say for every patient or every visitor. It's for everybody. And if I'm not taking care of a patient, I should be taking care of someone who is. So environmental services person was just cleaning the restroom, I helped her clean it, right? If it's meant to be, it has to start with me. So what are you going to do differently when you leave this room? How can we demonstrate that? Well, number 1, through compassion. You heard my friend Kwesi. Whose job is compassion? Everybody. It doesn't matter if you work in the lab, if you're a physician calling the lab, demanding those results ASAP. How we treat each other is going to domino, right? Number 2, through healing. They came here for body healing, clinical care. But there's a whole other level of healing here that they expect that we don't always bring. It's not fair. It's not right. But when they walk in the lobby and they see those scriptures on the wall and they hear the name Methodist in our name, it's not fair, but they expect more. And here's the good news. You have pockets of that spirituality here. So it's not just mind, or it's not just body, it's mind, body, and soul. That's unique. That's the first time, and I've been doing this 20 years, that's the first time the word soul made it into a true north. Now, this is not going on in a billboard. This is not going in the lobby on a banner. Hopefully, this will go in your break room as a way we unite as an organization. But I can tell you right now, Not everybody has their definition of which way north is. Let me give you an example. Everybody stand up, real quick, stand up. Stretch your legs. Come on, everybody stand up. Now here's some good news. Let me first give you the good, there we go. Let me first give you the good news. Your Chief Financial Officer, Brad Robertson, just told me just before this last session, he said, Jake, I got some good news. I said, what's that, Mr. Robertson? He said, I just saved a ton of money on my car insurance. Sorry, that was unnecessary. He said, I just had some money left over in the budget from 2018, so I purchased a brand new Cadillac. Why don't you give it away at your last session? I said, really? He said, no. Well, let's pretend. So if you'd like the keys to a 2019 Cadillac, it's parked 200 yards from here. Somewhere 200 yards from here, due north. You just have to point your index finger towards the ceiling, and on 3, point it towards the ceiling, everybody. And on 3, and only on 3, I want you to point which way true north is, but make sure you don't cheat. I want you to cover your eyes first. Cover your eyes so you don't see where everybody else is pointing. And on 3, I'd like you to point. I'm going to give you a tip. It's not the ceiling. 1, 2, and 3. Point. Which way is north if I gave you a compass? And I have a compass right up here. So I know I'm looking, I see you get a car, you get a car. You can uncover your eyes, look where everybody else is pointing. Do we all have the same definition of where we're going? And you wonder why you're herding cats in your apartment? Right? Keep pointing, let me see now, you get a car, you get a car. We got a lot of cars. Sir, you get a car just because you're tall, and you get a car. All right, have a seat. Go down to Brad Robinson's. Go down to your Brad Robinson's office and tell him Jake Poore sent you. All right. What was the point of that exercise, pun intended? Together, right? We can't do this. If you're a great surgeon, good luck on that. Because if you don't have a prep team or a sterile processing team putting that equipment together, if you don't have an anesthesiologist who understands our culture, then we're just processing bodies and doing productivity and throughputing DRGs and RVUs and variances and budgets. And how many people want to work for something that's all about the numbers? Numbers will come if we are all on the same page, and you're not all on the same page. But if you look at those first 7 words, we are. But how are we going to get there? I got to give you something else. I'm going to call it superpowers. That's right, superpowers. In the organizations we've given this to, this truly empowers the workforce to know what to do if you have a dilemma. Do you have dilemmas? Right now, somebody up on the unit clerk's desk is answering 3 call lights, but she's already on the phone with the patient. So a unit coordinator is on the phone with a patient who's confused about her instructions from yesterday when she went home. So she called the hospital, got to the unit. Does she hang up on the person and answer the 3 call lights of the other 3 patients? One of those patients got sick and tired of waiting, grabbed their IV pole, their butt hanging out of their gown, and they're up and they're tapping a pen right in front of that unit. Do I hang up on this patient? Do I answer the 2 call lights? Or do I handle the patient in front of me? I don't know. Oh, wait a minute, it ain't over. Because the doctor's tapping her on the shoulder and asking for a chart, and the nurse tapping her on the other shoulder, asking her to fax something over to Walgreens. What does she do first, second, or third? Well, in the middle of your sheet, we prioritize that for you. Because right now, which one of these is most important? Now, let me ask you, before I say go, let me give you an idea. We did hundreds of focus groups with you, and you told us, in this organization, this is what we talk about most. In this organization, this is what you get fired for if you don't do. In this organization, this is what I get the most emails about. In this organization, culturally, this is all we seem to be focused about. Which of those 4, being productive, being competent in your job test, being kind, or being safe, is the thing we talk about, measure most, and hold people accountable for most in non-clinical areas, not just clinical areas. Productivity, right? Then being competent in your job, then being safe at your job, and being kind at your job. Right? Not that, don't shoot the messenger, people. We should be focused on safety starts with me. We just went through this whole safety campaign. But really, what do we talk about most? Measure most, hold people accountable for most. In finance, in accounting, in the lab, it's all about throughput, productivity, RVUs, DRGs. Is that a successful business plan long term? Not if you're my mom. Think of your mom for a moment. Whether she's still with us on this earth or not, think of her face, think of her name, What does she want? Don't answer yet. What does she want when she calls the hospital? She just found a lump in her left breast and she just wants to schedule a mammogram, make sure it's nothing. She calls the hospital. Hold on. She just called the hospital and she gets transferred to radiology. How does the operator transfer? First, second, third, and fourth. When she gets to radiology, the scheduling office schedules her for a mammogram. How do they schedule her? How do they answer the phone? First, second, third, and fourth. When they schedule her appointment, she then gets a week off to fret about it and lose sleep. When she finally goes in that mammography office, how do they check her in? First, second, third, and fourth. And when the physician finally comes in to do a physical exam on your mother, what does your mom want that physician to do? First, second, third, and fourth. Every team member, every time, always. What's first? What does mom want? Good morning. Thank you for choosing Methodist University. My name is Jake. How can I help you? Can you transfer me to radiology, please? My pleasure to connect you. I'm competent. Then, radiology, this is Jake. How can I help you? I need to schedule a mammogram. Well, I can get you in 3 weeks from now. Right? Can I get your date of birth? Can I get your insurance number? And then, let me tell you how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. Why do most moms put safety fourth and not safety first? Because they assume it. Right? Are we ever going to put safety last? We want to be, as Kwesi said, become a patient-driven organization. We want them in the driver's seat. But just because they can't evaluate safety, we're not going to put it last. But this is you in the middle, in an organization that talks about these things as being most important. But patients what? You wonder why your patient satisfaction scores are in the red? Well, your executive team, your middle management, and some of your frontline peers have signed off on it because right now we know you're confused. Now, wait a minute now. What we put first, they put third. And what they put first, we put last. This is called organization of schizophrenia. Okay? Now, this is not an exact science. You got to give us time to start a conversation. As Kwesi said, it's not just a decision-making tool. It's a priority index to build an operational plan. Okay? What if they were in this order every time, always? What if 2,900 employees that work at University Hospital and the lights went out and the energy went out, knew what to do first, second, third? Literally turn the lights out consistency. The lights are out in this room. What would you do? First, second, third. Well, we do safety. We'd stay calm so we don't trample each other, right? Then we scream like hell and run like crazy. No, we would be compassionate. No, after you, after you, after you, after you. Like Chip and Dale, man. Because we're Methodists. We're spiritually driven. That's a bunch of baloney, Jake. I would trample everybody in this room. Well, you got to give me time. You got to give me time. Now, I know there's someone in the back of the room going, Let me just translate what she just said. What did you say? Jake, my boss has got 4 priorities, all right. And they are productivity, and budgets, which happens to fall under productivity. Are they going through this? Is that doc going to go through this? Is that CFO going to go through this? And the answer is eventually. Okay? But you can't change them. You can't change your boss. You can't change your chief financial officer. You can't even change people in your department. You can only change you, right? So try it. For us together to enrich every life we touch, we have to put safety first. Safety starts with me. After being safe and they can't evaluate it, we're going to compete on being compassionate. Whose job is it? How often do we do it? Always. So it's compassion always, and then we're going to do our job, but we're not just going to do our job. I don't need anybody just to check me in. I don't need anybody just to clean the floor. I need you to do your job with expertise and with pride. And if you can't do that, then eventually we're going to find somebody who can. Because we don't want you to just stick around and get years of service. We want you to give life into those services. Because we're a faith-based organization, and if we do these first 3, this should take care of itself. Because we're all on the same page. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the good news is when you have a dilemma, like a unit secretary at a unit, and she doesn't know what to do, now I've got her back. The organization's got her back, and you got her back. Patient, do you have an emergency? Ma'am, could you mind holding for 1 second? Do you have an emergency? No, I'll be right with you. I have another patient ahead of you. Doctor, do you have an emergency? I have 2 patients right in front of you. Nurse, do you have an emergency? No, could you actually please call next for me? Right. I have 2 other patients. Is that possible right now? No, that doesn't pass the snicker test, Jake Poore. Give me time. Give me time. Because in reality, we drop everything for the last group's always the most interesting group. In this culture, we drop everything for the doctor. That's right. But I've already talked to the dean of the University of Tennessee. I've talked to Dr. Forbes, who's the head of physicians, and they're really excited to start doing this as well with doctors. So, can we change them? No, we can't. But can we build a culture with them? Yes, we can. So ultimately, you already have this in surgery. How many of you ever had surgery before? Right? How many of you have ever worked in surgery or sterile processing? Right? Pre-op. Okay, great. How do they make sure the place is safe? They sterilize the OR from ceiling to floor. They take all the equipment out, they re-clean it, they call down to sterile processing. We'd like a surgical kit for a shoulder. Right? And they send up that kit, it is sealed because it has been sterilized. Then they re-scrub in, they change all their garb, they go back in, they go out to the pre-op area, and for compassion, for safety, they check the ID bracelet. They ask them their date of birth and their last name, even though we know we verify, because safety starts with me. And then we're compassionate. We introduce ourselves and our role and our expertise, and then we tell them the procedure in a language they can understand so they have an idea what's going to happen. And then we stay on time, and then we take them into the OR, we start all over again. We mark the wrong shoulder with an X. We mark the right shoulder with an O. We ask them to initial the shoulder. That's going to be surgery before they go to sleep. Then for compassion, we introduce the people around the operating table, and then we do our expertise. We put them to sleep. We stay on time, on budget, on schedule, and we do 24 of those surgeries a day. They already do that in the OR. What are you doing in your department? How do you build your operating plan? It's usually only RVUs, DRG, and operation. Now let me give you a classic example of this. I was on the internet recently because my daughter has just been diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic at 15 years old. We're kind of scared. We don't like our pediatrician. He's kind of a jerk, right? There's no compassion there. Oh, just like the guy from Dragnet. Just the facts, man, just the facts. So we went on the internet because doesn't everybody shop for doctors on the internet? Okay, maybe it's just me. Okay. And I stumbled across this viral video, that 250,000 people liked. I don't know about you, but I want this guy to be my pediatrician. How many of you have kids? Okay. How many of you have taken your kids to get shots, inoculations? Okay. This kid is in the lap of his father. He's got to get 2 shots, 1 in each leg. But this guy sacrificed speed and productivity to be compassionate. He kept the needles capped, and he pretended to stab himself with the needle. Then he pretended to stab his dad with the needle. Then he turned, and Mom's videotaping, he pretended to stab Mom with the needles. How did he keep this kid from crying? How did he enrich every life he touched in 30 seconds? Watch.
Ray. Yeah. Let's do mine. 1, 2, Ray. Yeah. Let's do Mommy's. 1, 2, Ray. Good. All right, hang on. Daddy's got your arms. Whoa, we don't like this. What's that? A 1, a 2, a Ray. Good. Yeah. All right. Let's say a 1, a 2, a Ray. Good. Yeah. Okay. Bend it. It's a bend it. We need tissues. All right. Let's get your Band-Aids. Hold on to that. Good. We'll get your Band-Aids. What's that? Let's get this one on. You're going to take it right off. I know you guys. You take them right off. We'll take this and good. All right. Clean up. Everybody do this here. Clean up.
So let's go back to it. You can applaud that. And do we have doctors and residents and students like this? Yes, we do. Are they a culture of always? No, they're not. Maybe by experience, maybe by upbringing, maybe by that's the way they've always done it. How many of you have taken your kid to a doctor, and this has happened to me, you have 3 kids under the age of 13, right? And said, hold on to your kid, sir. Then the hand's going, can't you just keep your kid still? What was their major priority in giving my kid a shot? I got 30 other kids waiting, mister. Hold your darn kid down. Do we go back? No. No, we don't. Do we have choices of pediatricians in downtown Memphis? Yes, we do. And we started asking our friends, where do you go for a dentist? Where do you take your dog? Where do you go to OBGYN, right? Oh yeah, we shop around by word of mouth. We don't always go to the same place. But this guy, did he jeopardize safety in his pursuit of productivity? No, the needles were capped. Was he compassionate? Yes. Was that a higher priority than being productive and fast? Yes. Did he waste company resources to do it? Yes, he did. He was growing tissues. That's at least a quarter of a cent each, sir. But you're thinking about the mother who's videotaping, the dad who's holding the baby, who's smiling from ear to ear, and a child who did not cry. Did together they enrich every life they touch? Yes. You already have your stories. You just got to tell us where they are. We've got pockets of excellence, and we got little iPhones and video cameras. Tell us to come to your department. We want to replace these videos with your videos. I don't care where you work or what you do. We all have a role on the care team. Every one of us are not just associates. We are care team members. That's not the question. The question is, how do we bring it? The last piece is this. What are the 7 courtesy behaviors? They're in front of you, but let me just remind you of what they are so you're really clear. We're not going to do these with patients first. We're going to do this with each other first, leaving this room. Number 1, when you greet somebody with a name tag on and call them by name, it's pretty big, right? Call them by name when you leave here. And by the way, make eye contact, say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That'll have a domino effect on the patient. When you do meet someone new, a new student, a new resident, a locum, a traveling nurse, or a new patient, introduce yourself in your role in a language they can understand. You're not EVS. They don't even know what environmental services mean, right? Speak in a language they can understand. You're not RT or DO or MD. Explain it to them. Number 3, demonstrate the desire to serve by escorting them where they need to go. Again, compassion comes second to safety. If you're not creating a safety hazard by being late back from break or late to work, then demonstrate compassion, because that's our competitive advantage. Everybody in this town is doing clinical expertise, but we're gonna compete on being nice. And when you walk them, introduce yourself and get their name and introduce them to the next person, and that's going to be a great handout. Use polite verbal language, body language, and, as Kwesi told you, tone of voice. Introduce yourself, make a connection by using their name as often as they can. Don't call them by their last name. Don't call them by their first name. Ask them what name they want to be called. It might be a nickname, right? Or in Edie's case from rehab, you said your mom likes to be called Mama, right? So if you call her by her first name or her last name, you're never going to make a connection, right? And if you see something on the ground, you see it, smell it, you own it, okay? You never know when I'm going to be secretly videotaping you. So the next time you pick up trash, do me a favor, do this. So I may just use your video in the next presentation. That's the restroom by the cafeteria yesterday, and a guy named Brad walked in as I was walking in, and I said, "Hey, Brad," and he looked at my name, "Hey, Jay." I said, "Hey, man, this place is trash." He goes, "Yeah, somebody should call EVS." I said, man, they're busy. Why don't you and I clean it up?" He goes, "Well, I didn't do it." I said, "I didn't do it either." I said, "Why don't you and I clean it up?" He goes, "Well, you're not my boss." I said, "No, I'm not your boss. Who's your boss? Let's get him on the phone." You know what we call that? Mutual accountability. But let's give let's assume that Brad hasn't been to this presentation. He doesn't know the way we do things here. But in 4 weeks or 6 months from now, that's not going to be an excuse that's going to fly, okay? And the last piece here is end graciously every conversation with the patient, whether you're handing them off their loss, or you're saying goodbye to them from this earth in a unit that they're going to pass, or they're just going home. Thank you for choosing Methodist. Why would we thank them for choosing Methodist? Because they have a choice. And by the way, thank each other for choosing Methodist. They don't have to show up every day, right? Especially these people. Call these people right now. Call maintenance, call facilities, call EVS, and I want you to say this. Hey, I just want to let you know we don't need anything. Thank you for everything you do. Hey, facilities, I just checked the toilets, they're all flushing. Don't need your help, the lights are all on, just have a nice day. PowerPoint, click! Alright? If you want to create a culture of appreciation, start appreciating. It's not your boss's job, because these people are out there, right? The emotional suck the life out of you vampires. Right? Watch out for them. But just know this, we're going to come by your department, we're going to help you build a departmental playbook. Now, next steps. In February, we're going to be back. Every leader in this organization, lead, supervisor, manager, director, and above, is going to go through a 3-hour deep dive of these tools and start to develop a departmental playbook. We're asking them to bring you Are you the informal leader on the team? We want the key guy or key gal in the department to come with that leader. Because really, when your boss leaves the room, the rest of us turn to you and go, are we really going to do this? And that passes the snicker test. All right? So if you want to be part of that intentional culture and bring it, localizing it to your department, show up. Tell your boss you want to be that key guy or gal. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Mahatma Gandhi said it best. If you want to change the world, be the change you wish to see in the world. If you want to change Methodist, be the change you want to see in your department. We have the tools. We have the resources. You got to show up. Good luck. God bless you. Stick around if you have questions.